Could you tell us a little bit about the kind of clients you would work with when you were broking, and the scale of the deals, the number of participants involved, the number of layers and things? Like what sort of thing were you coming up against?
Yeah, so I worked on Japanese business, which is usually fairly sophisticated, but I think some of the American structures get more complicated still, and I'll touch on that in a second. Um, what you'd normally see is um, quite sizable, usually single towers, where you'd have the main retention and then a number of different layers that stacked on top of that. But what you'd then also see is nuance where certain layers in a program, so most of the big clients will buy both wind and quake coverage. And then at certain layers, both of those perils will be covered, and other layers would just be a single peril. So again, based on what types of events have happened, the program will behave differently. And then you got what's called verticalization, which happens quite a lot in the really big clients, which is when certain reinsurers give you slightly different terms for their share. And they do so because they really want to win that client, and they're happy to take a slightly cheaper price to get a slightly bigger share because they're trying to build a relationship and similar. So we saw a lot of that happening.
And how did you manage that as a broker, I guess?
Yeah, this is where the less exciting part of the job always comes in. I had built this huge spreadsheet out that keeps track of all the various layers and the sub layers and responses to stuff, and it was very clever because it would change colors because I use conditional formatting. But oftentimes you're right, and so for these really big programs, easily 50, sometimes 75 reinsurers on the panel across the whole program. So huge.
How many layers as well?
So when I was on it, 5 or 6 layers, and then of those 75 reinsurers, not all of them are on all the layers.
So you have up to, I guess, like 375 different lines being put down.
Yeah.
Right. And
and then verticalization gets nuanced because let's say everyone is on the same terms for layer 1, but there's 5 different terms for layer 2, and there's 3 different terms for layer 3, and 7 different terms for layer 4. So it's not everyone got 25%. That's that deal done. It's very, very nuanced, and when you're trying to keep track of all of this, it's sort of very much, are you good at managing all the tasks at once and keeping an eye on it?